all 49 of the public schools in the territories, the Northwest Territories. R.J. Simpson is the Minister of Education, and he's in Yellowknife Live with us this morning. Minister Simpson, welcome to our program. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thanks, Heather. Good morning.
You've been listening to our coverage as we've begun this hour. Some of the provinces in the country and parts of the country where there's a whole lot of nervousness because it's day one. So you're old hat now. You're into week 2 already. Let me just get a read on how has it gone in the Northwest Territories?
So far, things have gone very well. We're in a different position from the rest of Canada in that we've only had 5 cases of COVID, and none of them have been community spread. They've all been travel related. So those people who returned to the territory self-isolated, and the cases were discovered before they spread. So I can understand the trepidation in parts of the country where this case is increasing, but we're in a very different situation here.
As was Prince Edward Island. I was speaking to the island's Minister of Education last hour. Similar situation. It obviously changes the reality that you're dealing with. And we know that you had a very firm plan in place for all 49 of your schools. What do you think have been the key measures that you put into place and protocols that you enacted, Minister Simpson, that have made things go as smoothly as they have?
Well, we worked in conjunction with the Office of the Chief Public Health Officer, and every single school plan went through that office and was approved by the Chief Public Health Officer. And the things that made things, the reason that things are going so smoothly is the number of hours that were put into making these plans and making sure they would work. Over the last 6 months, we've had people working full out to ensure that we have appropriate physical distancing, that we have, the markings on the floor to tell people where to go, which direction to go, to ensure that the ventilation systems are functioning properly, and that we have scheduled air cleaning. All of those types of things that every other jurisdiction is doing, we're doing those as well.
Is there any area where you haven't put a lot of emphasis that you wish you had now in hindsight? Any sort of potential vulnerabilities that have arisen in these first few days?
Nothing that I can see as of yet. We have, the one thing about our plan is it's fluid. If there's a need to change, then we can change. Right now, there's no physical distancing for students from junior kindergarten up to grade 6. And, if we see a need for that in the future, then that's something that we can start to implement. And perhaps we can reduce some of the measures as well if that's necessary. So we are open to ensuring that this plan works, and if that means change, then we're willing to change it.
So let me ask, one of the issues that I know you had was some of the schools in the Northwest Territories did not have enough space within their existing facilities. How did you address the space issue in terms of allowing for proper physical distancing?
So we have about 17% of students won't be or will be participating in blended learning, which means they'll be going to school every second day or half a day. And those are students primarily in grades 10, 11, and 12. And in cases where they're not in class, there's opportunities for them to be in the school, in a study hall or something like that. We have challenges with internet, as do all jurisdictions, but they're amplified here in the Northwest Territories. And so we're working on ways to get Chromebooks and internet into the hands of those students who need it.
And that blended learning model, some online and some in class, how does it look to be going so far, again, in these early days?
Well, it's hard to say after the first week, but yeah.
But so far, so good. Nothing egregious or nothing serious has immediately arisen.
No, I haven't heard of any complaint at this point.
Okay. So what would you say then? You mentioned you've done a lot of planning, weeks and months up to this moment. Elsewhere in the country, Minister Simpson, they don't have weeks and months. The day is here, or it will be shortly here. What is your advice for last-minute things to other provinces? I know in Yukon they're already back in school too, so we'll just direct this to the other provinces who have yet to experience back to school. What would you say to them?
I think communication is the thing you can do at this point. Communicate to parents, let them know what protocols are in place, what safety measures are in place, and I think that's going to give people a lot of comfort. We want students back in school, and so those parents need to feel that those students are going to be safe. And I know that every jurisdiction has increased hand hygiene protocols, has physical distancing, there's masks in certain situations, and we need to get that out to parents and let them know that school is going to be as safe as possible this year.
Okay. I'm interested in your perspective on something a viewer wrote to us. We were talking about how already in Alberta, for example, they've had a number of schools where there have already been cases, and we phrased that news headline or statement as things hadn't gone smoothly in Alberta because they had cases. Someone wrote to tell us, maybe it's not that things haven't gone smoothly. Maybe that's actually an indication that the system is working as it should, that already if there's a case, we know about it. The schools are dealing with it. How should, I'm thinking maybe speak to parents or anybody concerned about this, how should we view the whole prospect, the whole specter of cases being reported in schools and schools having to respond, and whether or not the system is working as it should?
Well, I think that viewer makes a good point. Every morning, parents should be screening their children when they come to class, and there's similar screening that happens at school, and there's protocols in place if there's a suspected case of COVID. So those reporting mechanisms, the fact that people are hearing about this, I think is evident that the system is working. Now, if there's widespread transmission in a school, then obviously there needs to be changes. But if there are cases that are identified and dealt with immediately, then I think that's a success.
A different perspective on this as we inevitably start to report on cases within schools in the country. Minister Simpson, I really appreciate the time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's R.J. Simpson, Minister of Education for the Northwest Territories.